Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Bible Summary Series. Today we're starting in Exodus chapter 13. Then the Lord spoke to Moses and said, "Dedicate every firstborn among the Israelites to me. The first offspring to come from every womb, be it human or animal, belongs to me." Then Moses told the people, "Remember this day, the day you left Egypt and the house of slavery in the month of Abib. Today the Lord has brought you out by the power of his mighty hand, and you are not to eat any bread made with yeast." Then Moses told the Israelites they were to continue celebrating the Passover every single year in the month of Abib, and they were to eat no yeast during that time for 7 days. And when their children would ask them why they did such a thing, they were to tell them, "It is because we are celebrating what the Lord did for us when we came out of Egypt." In this way, Moses said, "This festival will serve as a sign on your hand and a reminder between your eyes, so the Lord's law may be in your mouth. For with a mighty hand the Lord brought you out of Egypt." Furthermore, Moses told them, "When the Lord brings you into the land of the Canaanites, as he promised, the land flowing with milk and honey, you are to dedicate all your firstborn sons and the firstborn male animals to the Lord, for they belong to him. You may redeem the firstborn of your donkey with a lamb or goat in its place, but if you do not redeem it, you must break its neck. However, you must buy back every firstborn son. In the future, when your children ask, 'What does this mean?' you shall answer, 'With a mighty hand the Lord brought us out of Egypt, out of the house of slavery. And when Pharaoh stubbornly refused to let us go, the Lord slayed every firstborn in Egypt, both human and animal. That is why I sacrifice all the firstborn males to the Lord, except the firstborn sons, for they are always bought back.'" So it happened when Pharaoh finally let the people of Israel go, God did not lead them on the road through the land of the Philistines, which was shorter, for God said, "If the people face war, they might change their minds and return to Egypt." So God led them in a roundabout way through the wilderness and toward the Red Sea. And the Israelites left Egypt like an army in marching formation, ready for battle. And as they left, Moses took the bones of Joseph with him, because Joseph had made the sons of Israel swear an oath, saying, "God will surely come to help you and deliver you, and when he does, you must carry my bones up with you from this place." So the Israelites journeyed from Succoth in Goshen and camped at Etham on the edge of the wilderness. The Lord went ahead of them and guided them with a pillar of cloud by day and with a pillar of fire at night, so they could travel during the day or night time. And the pillar of cloud and the pillar of fire never left its place in front of the people. In Exodus chapter 14, the Lord spoke to Moses, "Tell the Israelites to turn back and camp in front of Pi-hahiroth, between Migdol and the sea, opposite Baal-Zephon. You are to camp right by the sea. Then Pharaoh will think, 'The Israelites are confused. They are trapped wandering in the wilderness.' Once again I will harden his heart, and he will pursue them. And I will gain honor over Pharaoh and his entire army, and the Egyptians will realize that I am the Lord." So the Israelites did as God commanded. They camped by the sea. And sure enough, when the king of Egypt was told that the people had fled, Pharaoh and his officials changed their minds and said, "What have we done? Why have we let all those Israelite slaves escape and get away?" So Pharaoh had his chariot made ready and took his army with him. He took 600 of his best chariots, along with all the other chariots in Egypt, each with its own commander. The Lord hardened the heart of Pharaoh, king of Egypt, so he chased after the Israelites, who had left his nation in proud defiance. And the Egyptians all of Pharaoh's horses and chariots, horsemen and troops, pursued the Israelites, and they overtook them as they camped by the sea near Pi-hahiroth, opposite Baal-zephon. As Pharaoh approached, the Israelites looked up, and when they lifted up their eyes, they saw the Egyptians marching after them with all their chariots and commanders, and they were terrified, and they cried out to the Lord. Then they said to Moses, "What have you done to us? Why did you bring us out here to die in the wilderness? Weren't there enough graves for us in Egypt? Didn't we say to you, 'Leave us alone and let us serve the Egyptians'? It would have been better for us to serve them than to die here in the desert." "Do not be afraid," Moses said to the people. "Stand firm, and you will see the salvation of the Lord, which he will show you today. For the Egyptians whom ye have seen today, you will see them never again. The Lord will fight for you, and you will hold your peace." Then the Lord said to Moses, "Why are you crying out to me? Tell the Israelites to go forward. Raise your staff and stretch out your hand over the sea. Divide the water so that the Israelites can go through the sea on dry ground. As for me, hear this. I will harden the hearts of the Egyptians so that they will charge in after them, and I will gain glory through Pharaoh and all his army, through his chariots and his horsemen, and through this the Egyptians will know that I am the Lord." Then the angel of God, who had been traveling in front of Israel's army, withdrew and went behind them. The pillar of cloud also moved from in front and stood behind them. It came between the armies of Egypt and Israel, and throughout the night the cloud shrouded the Egyptians in darkness and bathed the Israelites in light. So neither approached each other all night long. Then Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and all that night the Lord drove the sea back with a strong east wind and turned it into dry land. The waters were divided, and the Israelites went through the sea on dry ground, with a wall of water on their right and on their left. Then the Egyptians, all of Pharaoh's horses, chariots, and charioteers, chased them into the middle of the sea. But just before the dawn, the Lord looked down on the Egyptian army through the pillar of fire and cloud and threw it into confusion. He jammed the wheels of their chariots so they became difficult to drive. And the Egyptians said in a panic, "Let's get away from the Israelites. The Lord is clearly fighting for them against Egypt." And the Lord said to Moses, "Stretch out your hand over the sea, so that the waters may flow back over the Egyptians, their chariots, and their horsemen." So as the sun began to rise, Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and the water rushed back into its place. The Egyptians tried to escape, but the Lord swept them into the sea. With a mighty rush, the water flowed back and covered the chariots and horsemen, the entire army of Pharaoh that had followed the Israelites into the sea. Not a single one of them survived. But the Israelites went through the sea on dry ground, with a wall of water towering to their right and to their left. That day the Lord saved the Israelites from the hands of the Egyptians, and Israel saw the bodies of the Egyptians that had been washed up lying dead on the shore. And when the Israelites saw the mighty hand of the Lord displayed against the Egyptians, the people feared the Lord, and they put their trust in him and in Moses his servant.
The Lord spoke to Moses, "Turn back camp by the sea, between the wilderness and the water you will be. Pharaoh will think they're lost in the land, but I'll harden his heart and show my mighty hand." The Pharaoh's army came thundering near, with chariots of Egypt spreading dread and fear. The people cried out, "Why did you lead us here to die? Were there not enough graves in Egypt for us to lie?" Stand firm, be still, and see salvation's way. The Lord will fight, we'll see this his staff held high. The waters divided, walls reaching to the sky. Through the night, the cloud was their light. While Egypt's army was plunged into fight, the angel of God moved to the rear, shielding his people so they'd have no fear. And as the dawn broke, Pharaoh's pride was swept away. In the mighty waters his chariots lay. Stand firm, be still, and see salvation's way. The Lord will fight, you'll see this very day. The waters will part, the seas will divide. On dry ground the Lord will be your guide. So stand firm and be still. With the rush of the sea, the enemy drowned. Not one remained, they were nowhere to be found. Israel crossed to the other side, with a newfound trust in the Lord their light. That day the Lord saved his chosen ones from the hands of Pharaoh and his deadly plans. They saw his power, his glory displayed, and in their hearts their trust was laid. On the shore they stood in awe of the Lord's great work, the wonders they saw. They lifted their voices with fear and trust, for the Lord had delivered them faithful and just. Stand firm, be still, and see salvation's way. The Lord will fight, you'll see this very day. The waters will part, the seas will divide. On dry ground the Lord will be your guide. So stand firm and be still. So when your path seems dark and wild, remember the Lord and trust like a child. He'll part the sea, he'll make a way. Stand firm, be still, and trust in him today. Of the sea, the enemy drowned. Not one remained, they were nowhere to be found. Israel crossed to the other side, with a newfound trust in the Lord their light.